welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to do a wrap up of all the books that I have read in August and September. So I would have just done September, but unfortunately because I just started work in September, I've just been very busy, so otherwise it would have been a very short video. And I did happen to read a lot in August because I went away to Edinburgh and had a little cottage break. So yeah, I think I've read 21 books across the 2 months. Most of them are in August. I will just get started because I have a feeling this is going to be quite a long video otherwise. So the first book, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. So I'll read the blurb out. Two kids meet in a hospital gaming room in 1987. One is visiting her sister, the other is recovering from a car crash. Days and months along there, their love of video games become a shared world of joy, escape and fierce competition, but all too soon that time is over, fades from view. When the pair spot each other 8 years later in a crowded train station, they are catapulted back to that moment. The spark is immediate and together they get to work on what they love, making games to delight, challenge and immerse players, finding an intimacy in digital worlds that eludes them in their real life. Their collaborations make them superstars. So I rated this book 5 stars. I thought it was really good. I love the characters, I love the storyline. There aren't going to be any spoilers in this video, so I'm not going to go too much into what I like about each book, but I did really love the characters in this book and I love the storyline. I love the two main characters, Sam and Sadie. I thought they were both really well written. I loved how they communicated and spoke to each other and how they built the game, and of course the other characters I really liked. So yeah, I thought that it was quite a unique book. Like, I don't really know many books about video games and maybe that's my own fault. This one was really good. Also, I loved the cover. I love shiny. Okay, so the second book that I read was Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yaros. Is about 20-year-old Violet Sorrengale was supposed to enter the scribe quadrant, living a quiet life among books and history. Now, the commanding general, her tough as Talon's mother, has ordered Violet to join the hundreds of candidates striving to become the elite of Navarre, dragon riders. But when you're smaller than everyone else and your body is brittle, death is only a heartbeat away, because dragons don't bond to fragile humans, they incinerate them. With fewer dragons willing to bond than cadets, most would kill Violet to better their own chances of success. The rest would kill her just for being her mother's daughter, like Xaden Ryerson, the most powerful and ruthless wing leader in the Riders Quadrant. She'll need every edge her wits can give her just to see the next sunrise. Yet with every day that passes, the war outside grows more deadly, the kingdom's protective wards are failing, and the death toll continues to rise. Even worse, Violet begins to suspect leadership is hiding a terrible secret. Everyone at Basgiath has an agenda, so sleep with one eye open, because once you enter, there are only 2 ways out: graduate or die. That's actually very similar to a book I literally just read in the last video I posted. It says there was only one way out: graduate or die. So it seems to be quite a common thing that people write to, you know, grab people's attention. But I did give it 5 stars. I really love this book, and also a very shiny cover. It's basically just a mix of Divergent and dragons, if you've read Divergent. I don't usually read books with dragons, so this is quite an interesting choice for me, but it has done well and I'm not surprised because it's really well written. I really love how the characters like spoke to each other and the general storyline. I love the suspense of like each trial, because basically she needs to get through each stage in order to survive and like try and bond with a dragon and stuff like that. I would say this is probably my favourite book of this year so far, which is quite a big statement to make. And I really can't wait for the next one. I think Iron Flame, which comes out very soon. Third book I read is Elektra by Jennifer Saint. Again, I love the cover. I think it's just hardbacks with shiny covers. I will pick it up. I've read quite a few Greek mythology, maybe about 6 or 7. This is my favourite so far. So the house of Archeus is cursed, a bloodline tainted by a generational cycle of violence and vengeance. This is the story of 3 women, their fates inextricably tied to this curse and the fickle nature of men and gods. The sister of Helen, Clytemnestra, wife of Agamemnon. Her hopes of averting the curse are dashed when her sister is taken to Troy by the feckless Paris. Her husband raises a great army against them and determines to win, whatever the cost. Cassandra, princess of Troy and cursed by Apollo to see the future, but never to be believed when she speaks of it. She is powerless in her knowledge that the city will fall. Elektra, the youngest daughter of Clytemnestra and Agamemnon. Elektra is horrified by the bloodletting of her kin, but can she escape the curse, or is her own destiny also bound by violence? It's quite a good length. I thought it was a really good telling of the story. I've read a few which tell about the Trojan horse. This is definitely the best one. So the next one is Legendary by Stephanie Garber. So again, the shininess, I don't know why this is like every single book has this, but I rated this 4 stars. I thought that the first one was better. I really liked the imagery of the world, but I did think the first one was better. So this one, the first one is kind of about, they're on this island, and Scarlet, who's the main character of the first one, has to complete the Caraval, which is basically like a magical tournament, and tries to win. And then in the second one, Tella, who is Scarlet's sister, has her own game. So it's kind of the same, but just with different people. If I read the blurb, it will kind of spoil it. But basically, she has to make a bargain. So the person that makes these games is called Legend. And to win this Caraval, you have to basically find out what Legend's real name is. So that's what Tella tries to do in this book. So the only chance of uncovering Legend's identity is to win Caraval. So Tella throws herself into the legendary competition once more. Caraval has always demanded bravery, cunning, and sacrifice, but now the game is asking for more. If Tella doesn't fulfill her bargain and deliver Legend's name, she'll lose everything she cares about, maybe even her life. But if she wins, Legend and Caraval will be destroyed forever. Yeah, I really liked Stephanie Garber's writing. Like, I remember there was one line that said something like, the butterscotch light or something, and I thought, I don't think anyone's ever described light as like butterscotch before, but I really like that. So yeah, it's kind of like that kind of thing, like it's really cozy and like magical. Once Upon a Broken Heart, which is the future series, kind of in the same world, also has these characters in it, but in like a distant kind of way. That also has the same kind of imagery, and that's quite a popular series at the moment. So if you like that, then definitely check this one out. This happens before Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After. So the next 3 books I read were actually all in one binding, if that makes sense. So it's volume 1, so it's got The Pawn of Prophecy, The Queen of Sorcery, and The Magician's Gambit. So overall it's called The Belgariad by David Eddings. I rated all 3 of these books 4 stars. So if I just give like a brief overview of what it's about. It all begins with the theft of the orb that for so long protected the West from an evil god. As long as the orb was at Riva, the prophecy went, its people would be safe from this corrupting power. Garion, a simple farm boy, is familiar with the legend of the orb, but skeptical in matters of magic, until, through a twist of fate, he learns not only that the story of the orb is true, but that he must set out on a quest of unparalleled danger to help recover it. For Garion is a child of destiny, and fate itself is leading him far from his home, sweeping him irrevocably towards a distant tower, and a cataclysmic confrontation with the master of the darkest magic. I really like the characters in this one. So it's basically about this boy, Garion, who travels with a group of travellers. Basically all 3 of these books is just them like kind of travelling and like meeting other people. So this group grows and stuff like that. And sometimes they like leave you all behind or like gain more people. So it's basically just about that journey. I really liked some of the characters in the book that I just thought they all had completely different personalities and they all kind of blended really well together. It made me laugh, like it was really funny sometimes. And I really liked Aunt Pole. I thought she was really good. She's probably my favourite character. So yeah, it was just kind of a lot of just like light-hearted like character building and just travelling, and I just really liked it. So that's why I gave it 4 stars. The reason I didn't give it 5 is because I don't know, I just felt like it was lacking that kind of tragedy, if that makes sense. Like there wasn't anything that made me like, oh my gosh, that's really sad, or I don't know why, but that just always does it for me to get it to 5 stars. Okay, so next we have Finale, which also is like, it's the 3rd book in the series. So the first one's Caraval, then it's Legendary, now it's Finale. So this one comes after Legendary. I gave this 4 stars as well. I can't really say what happens in this or the blurb because that would very much spoil it. But I will say that I really like the world building and the storytelling. And I really like Jax. If you know, you know. But Jax is just my favourite character. I think it's because I read Caraval, then I read Once Upon a Broken Heart, and then I went back to Legendary, so that's why. But I really like Jax with Evangeline in Once Upon a Broken Heart. So when I see Jax in like other books with flirting with people, it just kind of like grinds my gears a bit because, you know, Jax and Evangeline forever. Again, I kind of thought the first one was better. I like Scarlet doing her Caraval. Tello doing hers was okay, but not as good. This one, it was just kind of like a final, like summing everything up, and it just wasn't as good as the first one. I don't know why. I think I just really liked the world building in the first one, and like just the way that Scarlet played the game. This one just kind of tied up the ends. So the next one is Shatter Me. So I know I'm very late to the trend. I don't really know when this came out, but Shatter Me by Tahereh Mafi. I read the whole series kind of like at once. It was very interesting. I had different views on different books. So we'll just start with the first one, 3 stars. So I can read this one out because there's no spoilers. Okay, so this is just like, even the blurb shows you why I rated it 3 stars. So it's like crossed out. So much of the text is like crossed out. Maybe I can like show the first page. Yeah, because this isn't spoilers. Like stuff is like crossed out. That happens throughout the whole thing. It gets less and less as it goes on. Basically, the crossing out is a sign that this girl is crazy because she's been locked up for her whole life because of her like abilities. As it goes on, she gets less and less crazy, so the lines stop. But the first book is just complete. Sometimes even a whole chapter would be full of like crossings out, and it's just like, I don't know what it was about it, but like I just found it really strange. So yeah, basically, I have a curse, I have a gift. So I have a curse crossed out, I have a gift. I'm a monster crossed out, I'm more than human. Underlined, my touch is lethal, my touch is power, I am the weapon. Okay. A fragile teenage girl is held captive, locked in a cell by the re-establishment, a harsh dictatorship in charge of a crumbling world. But Juliet is no ordinary teenager, one touch from her can kill. The re-establishment wants to use her as a weapon, but Juliet has other plans. After a lifetime without freedom, she's finally discovered the strength to fight back and to find a future with the one person she thought she'd lost forever. So yeah, 3 stars. I didn't like the craziness. That's why it's 3 stars. I just felt like there wasn't really sort of a lot happening. It was kind of mostly one thing and then suddenly something else, and then that was it. Like the next one was Unravel Me. So Juliet became a bit less crazy in this one, which I was very happy for because the crossings out were just, I mean, it still was like throughout, but like it was less, which I appreciated, and that actually bumped up to a 4 stars. The reason I didn't give it 5 is because I kind of felt like it was missing that emotional element that would have made me kind of feel more for the characters. I felt like in this one, at least, they didn't have much depth. Like I was still kind of getting to know them, which is weird because there aren't that many. Like I feel like Kenji's probably got the most character development, probably more than even the main character. So Kenji is Juliet's friend. Okay, next one, Ignite Me, 4 stars as well. In this one, again, like I was saying, the characters didn't have much depth. In this one, they got a bit more depth. So that's why 4 stars, even though the plot's kind of like I'd say the whole 5-book series is kind of one plot line that's just been really spread out. So I feel like that's why it's like still 4, because it's kind of like giving me the same kind of thing, maybe a bit more, like I'm learning a bit more, and I'm learning a bit more about the characters, but still missing that emotional element. I don't know why. It's just, it didn't make me like laugh. Like it's not comedy, it's not tragedy, it's not, I don't know what it is. And it like confuses me like a lot. I don't know what's gonna happen next. Maybe that's a good thing, I don't know. But yeah, it's hard to feel kind of like emotional about it. If you know a character has something like big coming, or like there's like a war, or like something scary could happen, then it makes you feel fearful for them. So there's like even that kind of emotion. The next one was Restore Me. I gave this 3 stars. I know it's hard to kind of understand without me telling you what happens, but because it's no spoilers. If you have read it, you'll know what I mean. So 3 stars. I gave it 3 because I didn't buy the storyline at all. So I feel like the last one was quite, you know, bordering on realistic, even though they all had special powers. This one is just so unrealistic, what happens. So Defy Me is the last one in like the Shatter Me series. I think I gave this 4 stars. It's okay. The reason I gave it 4 stars is because it did tie up a lot of the loose ends, but that's kind of all it did. And I feel like a final book can have sort of like that finale, like greatness that you could do a massive war. Like, it doesn't have it. Like, it doesn't. I feel like finales can be so good if they wanted to be, but this was just tying up the loose ends basically. So that's why 4 stars. But it was okay. Okay, so the next one I don't actually have with me because I listened to it in audiobook while I was doing a puzzle, but I'll just put it here. So the next one was Daisy Jones and the Six, which I gave 4 stars. Daisy Jones and the Six is about Daisy is a girl coming of age in LA in the late 60s, sneaking into clubs on the Sunset Strip, sleeping with rock stars and dreaming of singing at the Whiskey A Go-Go. The sex and drugs are thrilling, but it's the rock and roll she loves most. By the time she's 20, her voice is getting noticed and she has the kind of heedless beauty that makes people do crazy things. Also getting noticed is the Six, a band led by the brooding Billy Dunn. On the eve of their first tour, his girlfriend Camila finds out she's pregnant, and with the pressure of impending fatherhood and fame, Billy goes a little wild on the road. Daisy and Billy cross paths when a producer realizes that the key to supercharged success is to put the two together. What happens next will become the stuff of legend. I really liked the characters. I thought it was quite a unique story. Like, I don't usually read books about rock and roll, and to be fair, I have seen it in the shop a lot, and I usually think, not really for me, I don't really like rock and roll. It's the same sort of thing with Carrie Sotoma's Back. Like, I haven't read that either, but maybe I will after this, because I did really like this. And even though it was rock and roll and about like singing, and I'm not really kind of into that kind of thing, but I did like it. 4 stars. I really liked Daisy. My favourite character was Camila. I thought she was very cool. I wish she was in it more, to be honest. I did like the band. Billy was okay. They're quite cool, like rock and roll people, but as I said, I couldn't really relate to it. I really liked the audiobook version of it, because I could like hear all the different characters, and like I think the book itself, like I mean I haven't seen it in real life, but I think it's structured like an interview, so when it was like being read out, it just really made sense. However, that did kind of take away from the story, because I was kind of like listening to it and like absorbing it that way. I felt like I didn't really get attached to the characters that much. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like because I'm not reading it, I'm not spending the time with the book, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm just kind of doing my puzzle and like listening. So I didn't really feel that much emotion. As you know from like previous books, I rate 4 stars. I only give a book 5 stars if I feel some sort of emotion for it. So yeah, 4 stars for this one. The next one was House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas, which I don't have with me because I borrowed it from the library. But it's book 2 in the Crescent City series. I can't really go into too much about what it's about, otherwise it would spoil the first one. But I thought it was really good. One of my favourite Sarah J. Maas books. I still think it's really hard to say which series is the best, so I'm just not going to say that yet. But I think maybe one video I might do read through of all her books and rank them all, from because I feel like that would be really fun for me. Like, and also it would be kind of fun to see like my ranking and like detailed notes at the time, because like Throne of Glass I read so long ago that it's just so hard to compare. But I thought that Bryce is just so cool. Like, every time she speaks I'm like, yeah, go Bryce. So I really like the main character. I think she's just so unique, like something, I don't know how like Sarah J. Maas does it, but Rune, obviously Han Athalar. I like all the characters. I like Hypaxia. So yeah, I just think because like I was able to like say how many characters I like, that's because she just puts so much depth into all her characters and gives them all kind of separate storylines. So it's kind of like Friends, where like everyone kind of has their own storyline in an episode. It's kind of like that. So like each book goes between, like, it's third person and it goes between like different groups of people and shows like the storyline. And I just think it's really good because it, like, Bryce is the main character, she's probably in it the most, but you also get to see perspectives of different characters as well. So that's why I give it a 5 stars. The next one is Lightlark by Aster. Every 100 years, the island of Lightlark appears for 100 days to host a deadly game, where the rulers of 6 realms fight to break their curses and win unparalleled power. Each ruler has something to hide. Each curse is uniquely wicked. To break them and save themselves and their realms, one ruler must die. To survive, Isla Crown must lie, cheat, betray, even as love complicates everything. This one is my kind of thing. I basically love competitions combined with fantasy, combined with powers. Like, that's my thing. So this is and also like hardback short book, a little blow on the heart. Everything was going right. I gave this 4.5 stars. The reason I didn't give it 5, probably because I'd read it straight after House of Sky and Breath and it just didn't have as much character depth basically, but it doesn't mean it still wasn't amazing. Like, it was one of my favourite books this year. I think it would have given it 5 if maybe it was a bit longer, explored the characters a bit more, explored the world a bit more. Okay, the next one is Grimm Tales for Young and Old. It's by Pullman. It's just a collection of all Grimm's tales that have been edited by Pullman. So if I just give you some examples, there's the 12 Brothers, Rapunzel, Hansel and Gretel, Cinderella, Snow White, Strong Hans, Stolen Pennies, Gambling Hans, Bearskin, Singing Bone, Golden Key, the Nixie of the Mill Pond. There's quite a lot of stories, so this is the contents page. So these books and all of these books. So I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was very nice, and because this is one of the cloth bound classics you can get at Waterstones, it was really nice to read. Like, the cover's like off, the inside, the pages are just like, they're like Bible pages, and they're like thick Bible pages. They're soft but thick. It was just nice to read a cloth bound classic, but I didn't give it 4 stars just for that. I like the variety of stories. The only reason I didn't give it 5 is because I felt like every story I had to relearn who the characters were in the setting and like what was going on. Because sometimes I'd find myself like zoning out and be like, wait, what? Because I'd read like the first few pages of a next story, I would have no idea what was going on, so I'd have to reread it. So that is the only thing about this, is it's like, if you zone out, then that's it. Like, you have to go back because it's a new story now, so you have to know what's going on. So that was the reason I gave it 4 stars, is because it's not really just a book you can read all the time. You have to be kind of in the mood for it. Okay, the next book I don't have with me either, but it's called A Winter's Promise. It's by Christelle Dabos. I think it's French originally and it's been translated to English. Could be very wrong there. But I gave it 4 stars. It was published in 2013, so I'm quite late to this, but I only heard about it recently and I saw it in the library, so I thought I might as well get it. So it's about long ago, following a cataclysm called the Rupture, the world was shattered into many floating celestial islands, known now as arcs. Each has developed in distinct ways, each seems to possess its own unique relationship to time, such that nowadays vastly different worlds exist together but apart, and over all of the arcs the spirit of an omnipotent ancestor abides. Ophelia lives on Anima, an arc where objects have souls. Beneath her worn scarf and thick glasses, the young girl hides the ability to read and communicate with the souls of objects, and the power to travel through mirrors. Her peaceful existence on the Ark of Anima is disrupted when she is promised in marriage to Thorn from the powerful Dragon clan. Ophelia must leave her family and follow her fiancé to the floating capital on the distant Ark of the Pole. Why has she been chosen? Why must she hide her true identity? Though she doesn't know it yet, she has become a pawn in a deadly plot. So I thought this was really good, this book. I gave it 4 stars. What I liked about it is that it was a very slow burn, and I really like that in a book, and literally the next one is the opposite of that. But yeah, I really like slow burn. It was kind of grumpy guy meets clumsy girl, which was very classic, but for some reason it just worked. And I really like the mix of that in fantasy, because usually you kind of get that in just romance, so to have that in fantasy was something quite different. Usually in fantasy the girls like can already shoot a bow and arrow in the center and like can fight people on the mats and stuff like that. She can't do that, so it was something a bit different. I'm very excited to read the next one because I found out it's in the series, so I'll keep you updated on that. The next one you might have seen if you saw my previous video where I spun the wheel for how many hours I was going to read for, and it was between 1 and 10, and I actually got 9, so check that out if you haven't already. But this was the first book I read in that, and if you read that you already know that I gave it 3 stars. So this one is basically, if I read out the blurb for the first one, it will make more sense, because this is basically a retelling of this from the guy's point of view. Okay. Sometimes discovering the truth can leave you more hopeless than believing their lies. That's what 17-year-old Skye realises after she meets Dean Holder, a guy with a reputation that rivals her own and an uncanny ability to invoke feelings in her she's never had before. He terrifies her and captivates her, all in the span of just one encounter. and something about the way that he makes her feel sparks varied memories from a past that she wishes she could stay buried. Sky struggles to keep him at a distance, knowing he's nothing but trouble, but Holder insists on learning everything about her. After finally caving to his unwavering pursuit, Sky soon finds that Holder isn't at all who he's been claiming to be. When the secrets he's been keeping are finally revealed, every single facet of Sky's life will change forever. So basically, that blurb says it all. So especially, he captivates her in the span of just one encounter, is the first thing. Secondly, caving to his unwavering pursuit. That basically sums up this book, right? So this is retelling from his point of view. It's so, he just like, he realises that he really likes this girl, doesn't leave her alone, basically. And he has good reason, like if you know the plot, it kind of makes sense, but it's just hard to read, like sometimes when it just feels like it wasn't realistic. There wasn't any character development at all. They're the same characters from the start and the end, apart from like finding out the truth and things like that. I think a bit more character development and just something different. Like this is just the same book again. It didn't really add much. The first book kind of said everything that needed to be said, so that's why I give it 3 stars. So next is A Deadly Education. I also read this in the video I posted last. This is about enter a school of magic unlike any you have ever encountered. There are no teachers, no holidays, friendships are purely strategic, and the odds of survival are never equal. Once you're inside, there are only 2 ways out. You graduate or you die. Elle Higgins is uniquely prepared for the school's many dangers. She may be without allies, but she possesses a dark power strong enough to level mountains and wipe out untold millions. Never mind, easily destroy the countless monsters that prowl the school. Except, she might accidentally kill all the other students too. So Elle is trying her hardest not to use it, that is, unless she has no other choice. So I gave this a 4 stars. I forgot to say it's by Naomi Novik. I thought this was really good. It basically encompasses everything I like in a book, fantasy and schools and magic and that type of thing. I did like the main character. I think it could have been more improved. I think I always kind of say the same things. I just kind of like character development, and this book kind of had it, but the girl, she was just quite negative, and the whole time she was negative, and it didn't really get better. So that's why I gave it 4 stars. The Last Graduate is the next one in the series, and I gave that 4.5 stars. So I gave it 4.5 stars because what I didn't like about the previous one was that I felt like she had no character development and she was kind of negative. This one, she's a bit more positive, so she's happy with life, and like it was a huge improvement just seeing like all that I needed was that. So yeah, so this one 4.5. It kind of follows the same thing. So this one's junior year, this one's senior year. And I don't know what the next one's about, but I'll keep you posted because I'll probably read that soon. I thought that the plot is very thought out. There's quite a lot of like little things that kind of all make sense together. Like they have to use mana to do the magic, and like she stores it in crystals, and I feel like there's just loads of little things like that add so much to the story and just like improves the realism. So that's why I'm ranking it so highly. And I really like the relationship between the characters, between Orion and Elle. I think that they're like quite a cute friendship / whatever they are. So that is the end of the wrap up. I really hope you enjoyed it. The next one will probably be a haul, so stay tuned for that. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.